For most of South Africa's poorest citizens, a 350 Rand state grant stands between them and starvation. This grant, introduced during the COVID 19 pandemic but renewed several times since, is in addition to many other social grants received by vulnerable people. An expose by two University of Stellenbosch students has revealed what looks like a massive scam. The identities of a whole group of young South Africans have been stolen and used to register for these grants. Their story has been all over the media, where they have explained exactly how they uncovered the scam. This week, they appeared before Parliament's Social Development Portfolio Committee and once again explained to members how they stumbled upon this problem. These 19-year-olds are a classic example of a whistleblower. It was disheartening, however, to see ANC MPs treat them like criminals instead of recognizing their heroic contribution. In this episode, I look at the behavior of members of parliament whose first instinct is to be defensive and to level accusations at children in a way that may discourage others from coming forward in the future. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Joe Talks Politics. I am your host, Joseph Musia. Let's get right into it. It has taken two first-year computer science students, Veer Gosai and Joel Sidras, to make the country finally take note of what ordinary people have been complaining about. The fact that scores of them were unable to apply for the Social Relief of Distress grant because someone else had registered using their identities. Sidras explains.
In February of this year, I tried to apply for the SOD grant, but to no avail. It said that I already had an application. 3 weeks ago, I spoke to Veer about this, and we found out that Veer also has an application. And from here, we decided to find out what had happened with our applications. Our methodology is as follows. First, I held an informal on-campus verbal survey where we asked participants to enter their ID number so that we can check whether or not they have an SRD application active. If an application was found, we then asked whether or not they created that application themselves. As part of our on-campus informal survey, we asked 60 people that we know to verbally participate in our survey. What they did was they entered their ID numbers into the portal and checked whether or not they have an application. Of these 60 people, 58 of them had active applications, and of those 58, 56 of them did not make the application themselves.
When came time for the questions and comments from members of the committee, Chilitse Munyai of the ANC offered a rather strange opening line.
First and foremost, as the African National Congress, we are not synonymous to corruption or fraud. In other words, as a matter of principle and fact, we don't support any forms of corruption, fraud as the African National Congress. And I'm saying because I introduced myself as the member coming from that organization.
What made his remarks curious is that the issue of the ANC and corruption did not arise from the presentation of the students at all. Sidras and Gosai offered a few solutions based on the problems they identified. They also offered to collaborate with the Department of Social Development and SASSA to find a solution to the problems. The suggestion of a collaboration raised the ire of Munyai.
There are those that are coming to conclusion even before the investigation, mobilizing society as a pseudo-ministers. I'm not saying you do that. As a pseudo-minister to say, hey, all over, everybody come to me and Chilitse Munyai organization, here, bring any other forms of attack. How can you mobilize an attack against the state? That should not happen. And I'm sure we'll deal with it at the appropriate time. So lastly, Chairperson, because they did not present a technical question, technical issues, They want to collaborate without technicality. I'm not going to ask them technical questions they did not present, and by request and by design of the presentation. But for me, I'm very committed that we need a minister. Remember, you don't seek collaboration, because I would appreciate that the student must also go and present before the department. And whether the department decide to collaborate or not to collaborate with them, it will be their businesses. I'm saying I cannot have an attempt on the country's national security system with a view to seek to collaborate with them. It doesn't work that way.
While he stated that he was not accusing them, his remarks were nothing short of saying the two had attacked the department's security systems to generate ID numbers in their research. For someone who was demanding that the students provide technical details of the methods they used, Munyai seems to lack even the basics of how computers work. He uses words like algorithms but fails dismally to grasp simple concepts like we used SASSA's publicly accessible website. But Munyai was not the only ANC MP feeling hot under the collar because of this issue. Stanley Ramaila was also riding the conspiracy theory train and questioning the ethics of the students.
Chair, the actions of the students cannot just be taken at face value as a fact. We really need a conclusive report to guide us on the extent and of the legality of the students' actions so that we do not find ourselves legitimizing potential unethical actions or contravention of legal and ethical frameworks. And I'm sure they are quite aware of those sort of things and wouldn't want to go into that, but I request really the department to really delve deep into those sort of things. And this is all to say, Chair, that the base of which this item is considered is based on hearsay and the public media. So I think this committee has not been empowered with a report which has investigated these claims and provides evidence of whether the students are alleging is true or not. I may, for instance, would have wanted to understand the social background of the students, and it would actually be unfair to them to raise that matter here. It's a private matter that can be answered to the department. The department will be capacitated to respond to such a matter when they bring back the report to us.
It is amazing that these two geniuses would focus on the actions of the whistleblower when it is clear there is a crisis that needs to be confronted. But they were quickly isolated as members of other parties pointed out that, in fact, the matter is not new at all. Darylyn James of Action SA told the committee that it is actually SASSA that needs to do some explaining because they have known about this matter for some time.
In July 2023, Bonnie Songs and Elizabeth Reuters blew the whistle on this very matter that we are addressing here today. It was not the first time. I'm glad that it's finally getting the attention that it deserves. In my possession, I have an email dated the 19th of the 9th, 2023. We are now sitting here almost a year later, addressing the very same issue. From Bonnie Songs to there's a Brenton van Vreed and a Maputi. I want to read that email to you that actually takes us back to July that year. I've received a message also from Elizabeth Reuters, who's an activist in the community of Eldorado Park and who assists beneficiaries, and she writes to me, I'm an activist and work on a daily basis directly with beneficiaries. Last year around March, we started getting queries of beneficiaries who turned 18 in 2005 and tried applying for the SRD, but all of them got the message, grant already active. We hereby informed SASSA about it And as these cases were coming in, the account would get blocked and the beneficiary would have to reapply. In this process, beneficiaries lost some months that was supposed to be paid to them. Later in the year, we noticed that it was not only 18-year-olds, but even beneficiaries who had lost their jobs and tried to apply. SASSA has been working with us trying to resolve these cases, but the problem is still persisting as we still deal with these cases on a daily basis.
What is encouraging is the attitude of Social Development Minister Sisisi Tolashe. Instead of adopting what was clearly a party line, she showed her utter displeasure with the acts of the agency. She was so unhappy with their failures that she asked the committee that they not be allowed to make presentations, but rather to come back within 30 days with a clear plan of how this matter would be resolved. She undertook to lead the investigation into the matter herself and to act where there were clear breaches.
It's the DST's mandate through SASSA, its entity, to make sure that this grant is being distributed to the right place, to the right people at the right time. So I really appreciate these two young men to have been able to, in their own way, to bring us closer to what the problem is. Because between ourselves, we have been talking about it, we had a lot of time, and they brought it to us in a manner that says, you don't have time. You rather resolve the matter now. Other than that, you'll be alleged to be one of those who took away the least thing that the poor people had. And you took away what was supposed to be theirs and create an impression that you are doing them a favor. Therefore, we have undermined their constitutional right.
The actions of the two ANC MPs represent everything that was wrong when the party used to govern on its own. Ministers, departmental officials, and entities would arrive in Parliament with half-baked answers and know that they would have the support of the majority. That is how the country ended up with failed state-owned entities, dysfunctional departments, and arrogant ministers. The attitude of Minister Tolashe and her openness about what she thinks is the problem should give the country hope that things will improve. If you enjoyed this episode, please go on and share, like, and comment. Please also consider subscribing. Subscriptions are free. See you in the next one.